many of you work with next gens already? And how many of you still have some questions on how they might think, because it might be differently to how you do business? Thank you for your honesty. So, my name is Caroline Schmid, and I have the honor today to moderate this panel. I want to give a huge thank you to the whole Prestel & Partner organization, because with each and every person in this room and in the back office, basically, we wouldn't be here and wouldn't be getting so much more, so much knowledge, so much new knowledge than we had before yesterday on Monday. So today, I got two highly interesting people, which you're gonna be able to see behind the scenes because of them, how NextGen does business. So please welcome with me Mariana Kuka and Christopher Schufar. My first question, and I think the biggest question in this room, is, who are you? So please, Mariana, introduce yourself. What do you do? Your mic is on the table.
Oh yeah, sorry. Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Mariana Kuka. I am from Athens, Greece. I recently moved from New York, where I was pursuing my MBA at Columbia Business School. And after being involved in a family business, I decided to take a step back and reflect on what I'm truly passionate about, which is building communities. And that's what I'm currently doing with my partner, building communities around family enterprises and family businesses globally.
Amazing. Chris?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Christopher. I come from Switzerland, actually, the other side of the country. I was born in Lausanne, and I spent sort of half of my career in London. I started in the financial sector, also graduated in London, and our family business was operating in the TMT space, in telco and cybersecurity in particular. And I was never actually involved directly in the family business itself, but once we sold the business back in 2019, there was an opportunity to reconnect with the family, and I've been involved with the creation and the running of the family office since then. So, yeah, that's the thing in a nutshell.
Amazing. And what are you passionate about?
A lot of things. No, when it comes to I mean, our investment thesis for now, it's quite a new setup as well. We've been doing that for 5 years, as I said. And the things we try to do is the things that interest us as a family. So, for example, that could be biotech, that could be longevity. That's thematics that are quite close to our family heart. But in general, being an entrepreneur ourselves, we really like private markets. So we do quite a lot of private equity, venture capital. This is, maybe we'll dig further, but that's also what I do as a day job as well. And so this is, I think for the moment, what we mostly do in-house, and then we work also with external providers for other strategy. Yeah.
Amazing. And you said that you, as a family, decide to follow what is interesting for the family. But do you always agree?
No, is the short answer. I think it's quite difficult. In our case, it's quite a small consortium, because it's basically just my father, and we're just 2 siblings, so that makes also the life quite easier. I mean, I know a lot of family office, 6, 7 gen, and there's like 200, 500, maybe some in the room here that I know. And then it gets, I think, even more complex, so we're quite fortunate on that end, but it also means each voice has more power in that sense. So if only 1% disagree, that's already quite a lot of the room. But yeah, we still try to discuss the matters, and thankfully we're able to do a bit more than just one thing. So try to find something that interests everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. And what about you? How do you feel like, so now you're more involved with your partner regarding business stuff. Do you always agree, and how do you find a solution if you don't agree?
With the family or with my partner?
Now with your partner being in business.
Actually, I'm very fortunate because we are very aligned in the way that we are thinking, but at the same time we complement one another. So for instance, I might see, I guess, the broader vision, and he will dive it down on the minute details that we need, I guess, to follow. So I think it's super exciting to just have an open dialogue early on, just to set the expectations. And I think it's such a beautiful opportunity to get to work with your partner.
I think we can all cut a piece of that cake, because it sounds like you never fight. You have the perfect relationship, and communication is top priority. So that's amazing. What about compared now to business, doing business with your family?
I think it's slightly different. I view it as a timeline continuum in the sense that I need to be aware of what my family was doing before and to set the tone for what's next. So I think it's inevitable that potentially some clashes might happen, but with fruitful conversation and being able and open to understand one another, I think it's very, I guess it's achievable to set the tone for the next generation and to be innovative in that sense.
For sure. Do you feel like you can learn something from your parents, from the elderly?
Absolutely. I think at the core of who I am, it's the family values and the importance of family and being true with yourself and finding alignment with everything that you're doing. I think I owe that to my family, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that I've had and the ability to build what I'm passionate about, but at the same time, being in a way still involved with what they're doing.
And did you, as the next generation, did you add some values, or did you also take some values and exchange them?
I think we're in the midst of potentially changing some things, because the nature of our family business being in the shipping industry is quite traditional. So we're now, I guess, in the midst of changing some things and make it potentially more innovative, integrate more technologies. So I think it's very important to have open conversations with the older generation and to ensure that they're on the same page with your vision and what you're explaining to them, and potentially do not use a lot of jargon, just have, I guess, an open conversation and just to seek their input as well, because it's very important. It's all about preserving the legacy and adding your own value for the next generation as well.
For sure, for sure. How do you see that?
In terms of value, I would say, obviously it's quite different. I think if you grew up in a, I would say, privileged environment to some extent, where you have all the opportunities, and whereas, at least on my side, my parents, they didn't necessarily had those. They came from good families, but maybe not as much opportunities. But I think I learned, I would say the number one values is resilience, because we built a business from sort of scratch, never raised the external money, which is also, I think, something today, it's very easy, you get access to capital, people with just an idea, they maybe can skip the line, but they also fail much quicker, potentially. That's another argument, but yeah, so yeah, starting with not much and building a large business is I think a tough time. It's a lot of sacrifice as well. I don't remember like the speech we had before, spending a lot of time with my parents back in the days. They were very busy, very focused on the business. My dad also was traveling a lot, so I think it's sacrifice, and maybe I think we might discuss that later, but I think it's also like sort of sacrifice between sort of business and family time, which is I think today something we understand more maybe as our generation, but yeah, it's definitely also things when you grew up seeing it that embed in yourself, and then obviously you try to live up to the standards that have been set up. In terms of actual what we bring maybe as a next gen is sort of an external view of that, and I think also, as I said, I didn't myself work in the family business itself, but from the experience of other peers that did, you can actually bring a lot of values because you come from external, hopefully you had good education, maybe external experience, and then you can bring new ideas to maybe a sort of family business owned that is not always the most agile, I would say, and you sort of a privileged position because you have the backup maybe from your last name, and at the same time you have the sort of younger mindset that you can bring. So I think it's an interesting combo that you can bring, and if you at least listen to, I think that can bring to very interesting conversation within a company.
For sure. And what are these new values that you're adding to resilience?
I think that is, like I say, maybe a bit more of a life balance that I think is quite important, not just for you as an individual or as a family, but also to maybe build around sort of the rest of the company. If you can bring those values, I think you can maybe get the best out of the people and also attract, because I think some of the older industries are sometimes quite hard to attract younger talents, people that are very ambitious, that comes, but they don't not necessarily only want a good salary. So on top of that, they do want other benefits, and those most of the times are not financial ones. So I think understanding that can also attract better talents for your company. And maybe I think we're also slightly more agile, our generation. We understand, how some of the macro or I would say innovations impact a traditional business, and being able to see that maybe a bit earlier can have, I would say, a positive impact on the running of the business.
Thank you. You already touched upon my next question, and I think we can dive in directly. How many of you struggle with work-life balance sometimes? Maybe not sometimes, but on a daily? So, how do you implement what you just said into your day-to-day life?
Yeah, it's easier to say than do. That's for sure. I think it takes. It's not a perfect formula. I think you have to find something that works for yourself, for your partner. If you have children, obviously, I think it changes also to another level. On my side, for example, it's allowing me to have a sports session almost every day, because I think this is something that brings a lot of equilibrium in my life, and I can see that I'm much more productive around that. It can be, I don't know, taking just the time to read the news. Not everyone does it. It used to be, I think, something very normal back in the days. People would take the newspaper in the morning, read it from start to finish. Who does it today? Almost no one. And I think this is also something that, okay, then you just get the informations that are sent towards you, which are probably not the fairest ones. So I think this can be just finding, I would say, things that make you feel good as a human being, and usually that would also impact your sort of performance on the professional side, I would say.
For sure. What about you? Do you resonate with what Christopher said?
No, absolutely. I think it's very important, especially if you come from an entrepreneurial family, to recenter to the now and actually enjoy what you're doing, whether it is reading a book, doing a workout, meditate, whatever you are passionate about. I think it's important to integrate with your routine, because coming from a family business or being involved with it's interlinked. You cannot separate the family from the business, it's one another. So I think it's very important to be cognizant of that, and I guess plan accordingly.
And maybe one thing I would add is communication as well, because I think it's something maybe the generation of our parents sort of lack, is having those open discussion with family members, or can also be actually just as bad as your partner, but it's quite important to express what you feel, what stresses you, whatever is unspoken within the family, because I think otherwise this always going to step back in every other decision, and it's going to bite you later on. So I think we're much more conscious of the benefit of open communication. Yeah.
And is your family still caught in that turmoil of needing to adapt to that new communication style, or did they already get used to?
I think there's different times. So sometimes it looks like it's perfect, and then there's another event that's gonna just cause a disruption within the good, I would say, harmony. So that's also quite important. In our case now, I think it's actually quite good. It's even better than it used to be, since we've been working more together. We've been closer as a family in that sense as well. So that has benefiting, I would say, also the communication impact. But yeah, should never, I would say, take that for a given, and always try to work upon that. And usually it starts with asking open questions to people, how you feel, is there something, etc., etc. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my therapist also told me to share my feelings in the I perspective and not you made a mistake, but I feel like you crossed the boundary. So yeah, it helps with open communication. What are you, Miranda, teaching your parents, the older generation?
I think my parents are quite open-minded in that sense, and I think it's very important to, whether something that they did or you did, to, I guess, be accountable of that and be open to discuss it. You don't want to accumulate suppressed, I guess, discussions, because it's very important to be able to go to your parents and discuss everything with them. And I guess even though there might be a difference in the perspective because of the generation, I think it's important to just acknowledge that and, okay, let's find a way to communicate openly, transparently, without, I guess, having suppressed thoughts or ideas in our minds.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. Did you find a way of teaching the older generation something that you think your generation does better than them? So like, how do you do that?
I think empathetically, it's being able, through perspective taking, to let them know that you're listening to them, and then be open to potentially provide them with a different perspective. But you need to be open to actually listen to them first prior to proving your point. And I think that's, I guess, the delicate balance.
For sure. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. But in general, it's yeah, I think especially the entrepreneurs and the people that have been so focused on the families, on the business. Sorry, see the mistake is that also try to make them feel, that you're important beyond what you've built. I think we also had this discussion earlier this morning, but it's quite interesting to see, okay, this is not what you're going to be remembered for, is what you achieve maybe as a business person, but also, okay, you're actually very interesting and you have opinion, I don't know, on philosophy, and you have been to 100 countries in the world and you discover a lot of different things. And I think empowering that and make them realize, okay, this is also something you can be proud of and listen for, and not necessarily only the business that you achieve and the numbers and the KPIs, etc. I think that's also liberating to some extent to them, because I think it just opens a brand new aspect of their personality sometimes.
For sure, thank you. We all, or the people who work with their families, family relationships come in the way basically all the time. How do you deal with that?
I think that, again, no perfect answer, but I think in practice, what tends to work quite well is having sort of set rules when you discuss those topics. You say, okay, when we put 11 a.m. on a Tuesday to discuss a particular topic or a particular investment or whatever it is okay, we stick to that topic and we don't try to mix all the things and maybe the frustration of the last dinner on Sunday, because I think then it can be bad as a family, but it also looks completely unprofessional if you work with external people within your family office. So, and that happens over and over, I think. So it's try to set those rules. Again, I'm not saying you should not discuss those topics, because it's exactly the reverse that I said before. But I think, yeah, there's room and place for it. So just try to have that, and yeah, maybe again, probably ask more question than give answers.
Yeah, the separation of family and business relation is super important, and to keep that respect of, hey, you're not just my son, and hierarchically I am above you, but hey, you are my business partner, and the hierarchy looks very different at 11 a.m. on Tuesday than on Monday dinner night. So yeah, what do you have to share to that?
I completely resonate with what Christopher said. I think it's important to frame the topics appropriately and I guess be able to follow some set of guidelines in order to ensure that the conversation will be fruitful and no arguments will arise. And I think it's very important in whether it is discussing more personal aspects of the family as a whole or the business itself. I think it's very important to just frame it appropriately and address the issues that you have to discuss.
And maybe, I guess the other interesting thing is most of the time, I would say, at least in the families I know, is people maybe come also with different skill sets or different background, and that can be actually quite interesting because, I don't know, in our case, my dad is an engineer, my sister is a lawyer, I'm more of a finance guy, so I think maybe on a say same opportunity or discussion, that we have very different mindset on it, and yeah, again, coming with an open-minded approach and not saying, okay, I'm trying to pitch my opinion to the others, convince them, but reversely, okay, listen to other perspective and maybe try to come to I would say, a smarter decision.
Thank you. If you don't mind sharing, what do you two struggle with right now? Now, not personally, but like in the business compared or in a relationship to parents in the family business.
Personally, I think it's finding the balance of being involved in the family business but also pursuing my own path. I think it's very important to identify your value and I guess align that with what you're truly passionate, because I think it's very important in all of your endeavors just to be truly authentic with what you're doing. And I think I kind of struggle to find that balance of, I guess, crafting my own path whilst being involved in the family business. I think I will always be somehow a part of it, but for the time being, I choose to be not that active.
Thank you.
No, I think that's a good point, and in our case, I mean, there's quite a few, I would say, sub things we do within the family office, and not everyone is involved in everything, and that works actually quite well. But because that also means, okay, I have some sort of my own projects that I run, and that I can be proud of, and the door is always open for anyone in the family to join if they're interested as well. But everyone trying to find the right balance, I think, is quite important. And maybe the second thing would be timing, because obviously there's a big difference in age and between our generation and the parents, and trying to find, okay, things we want to do, and sort of aligning the timing of those is not necessarily very easy. And I see that in a lot of families, you know, they want to do, always speaking of, okay, long terms for family office, but okay, some parents or grandparents might be a bit, you know, towards more the end than the beginning. So yeah, how do you try to align all those interests of the family, have the long-term impact while still, you know, maintaining those alignments is quite challenging, I would say, and I think an ongoing discussion for us as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. Before we open to a Q&A, how, or finish the sentence, how does NextGen do business? Or Mariana first.
I think being impactful and align that with what you're truly passionate about, I think that's extremely empowering to be able to see the fruits of all of your endeavors in an impactful way.
I would say we probably more collaborative in the sense, like we more speaking towards one another, and I think that was lacking a bit maybe in the older generation where everyone was sort of in a silo, and yeah, we don't, I think, less at least compete with one another and more try to be collaborative in a sense. So hopefully we continue this way.
Thank you. So now you have the power to ask direct questions to my speakers. There's a microphone already flying your way.
Hi, this is Marika here speaking. Thanks so much for your presentation. I guess this is still a question in your future, but I'm wondering, growing up in the situation that you've described, what is going to be your approach with your future kids? What are you going to do similarly to your parents, or what are you going to do differently, especially in terms of like setting them up to maybe be involved in your family business as well?
I can start. So as I mentioned, our family business is not operating anymore, or it is, but not under our own umbrella. So that makes life a bit simpler. I think there might be a lot of things that happens until they're in a position to enter the working space, but hopefully, I want to be as open as possible and give them the opportunity that they can. Obviously, that goes from education to career choice. Keep the door open if they want to work closer to the rest of the family, but also allow them to follow their own path. Because I think when you force it, it usually doesn't end up very well. And conversely, if you close the door, I think that's also quite a mistake. So yeah, sorry, it's a bit vanilla answer, but I think this is hopefully what I will try to do, at least with my own kids.
I think instilling the values of the family is extremely important for the legacy preservation, but also the continuity of the family as a whole and the identity of the family. So I think it's very important to, provide them with similar opportunities that we had. And as we see the family grow, it's important to potentially add a little bit more structure in order to avoid potential conflicts in the future.
Another question?
Thank you very much, Jean Raffay. Thank you for the panel discussion. Very quick question to each of you. Out of your active working time, what percentage is devoted to the family office, family business?
For me, I would say around 40%.
Yeah, for me, roughly half as well, because I didn't mention, but we're running together with another family office our own also VC strategy. So this is where I spend also part of my time. So yeah, part of I would say roughly half, but yeah, there's no, I would say 2 weeks similar. So sometimes it's 100, sometimes it's less, but yeah, trying to and things are always. From my experience with family office, things are more often than ever sort of interlast, so you always end up going back to it.
Thank you. One last question. I can feel your minds thinking, so now just someone needs to be courageous enough to ask that question. We got the gentleman smiling already. Yes, please.
This question is to Chris. What do you think determines the risk-taking capability among the two generations? Like, if your parents were taking more risk, you think, or generation as you will take more risk in the business?
Most of the time, I would say the next gen is more risk taker. That's for the obvious reason that I think we also see other opportunities. We're more likely to diversify. I think the right answer for most entrepreneurs would say, okay, any other dollar I have, I would respend it on my own company, because if that's not your answer, then you probably should not be running the company anymore. But yeah, I would say risk, there's a different way of seeing risk, but I would say you can also, because yeah, they're more risk taker, I would say the next gen, but at the same time, you could see that as a de-risk, because that might most of the time means also would start, I don't know, at the products line, diversification, etc. So which would de-risk ultimately potentially the overall, I would say, asset class of the family. But yeah, short answer, next gen.
Perfect. Then I would like a warm and big applause for my speakers for being here and sharing so openly.